Imagine that you end up in a story created by yourself. That's what happened to our protagonist. However, in the story of his book, he ended up reincarnating as the villain and not as the hero. And to avoid a tragic ending, he decides to become good and gather the best students from the Muram world. And this work here is the best harem you'll ever watch, I guarantee you. So let's get to the video. The story begins with our hero receiving the memories of an old body. He had come to a universe of clans and masters. He doesn't quite understand where he is, and when he looks down he sees one of his servants and even thinks he's having a perfect dream. We see that our hero is quite shameless, and the little girl keeps telling her master to stop. He realizes that this wasn't a dream, but actually reality. When he looks at the little girl, he realizes it's Ling, a character from his book. Then his head starts to hurt, and his disciple gets worried. She was even afraid of having caused a trauma to her master's head, and therefore being punished. However, he tells the little girl not to cry and tries to comfort her. He had understood everything. So, I ended up in the story of the book I wrote myself. And I'm even the villain of the story, not the hero. Master is acting really strange. Why is he showing compassion for me? Our hero is in the body of the villain from his own story, and this villain was named Shen. He was a cultivator in the Golden Core stage. This character was quite cruel, and did everything to become the strongest. He coveted the treasures and opportunities of the protagonist since the beginning. He tricked and intimidated the hero of the story, and even tried to eliminate him. However, the protagonist of that story, the real one, the protagonist that our hero wrote, ended up managing to defeat the villain Shen at the end of the book. So basically our protagonist here was going to be in trouble because he reincarnated as the villain and not the hero. That's why, from now on, he was going to try everything to become a good person. He knew there should be some sort of system, since he always played a lot of video games. And whenever a reincarnation happened, the characters would get a powerful system. However, here our hero wasn't able to activate any system. Ling keeps wondering if her master has gone crazy. Well, this here is my newest disciple, and she's quite silly. However, my second disciple, according to my writings, is Ming. But she is also quite mediocre and can't use her cultivation well. Well, in the original plot I wrote, she ended up being killed by me, the villain, since she had turned to the side of the protagonist. So I won't do something stupid like that and I'll become a good person. And the best part is that I have a clan just for me, with several beautiful and wonderful women. The guy is quite shameless. He opens the dojo door and finds his students. When he gets there, he sees that the second disciple was bowing. My God, I can't get used to this. I can't believe I wrote a story like this. You'll understand very well why he feels ashamed of writing this story, since his book has a lot of wrong things, let's say. Alright, Ming, stand up. You don't have to keep bowing. Master Shen, I received something from another clan. Our hero can't think about anything else but the beautiful body of his second disciple. He has to take a look at that invitation she said she received. However, she gets nervous because it was a lie. She was making it up, since she hadn't gone to get any invitation. She was absent because she was worried about the third disciple, who was the oldest disciple. I know very well that she's making this up, because I was the one who wrote this story, so I'll be merciful and won't punish my second disciple, since she was worried about her older sister. All of our hero's students called each other sisters, and treated him as if he were the supreme lord. He says he knows she's lying, but won't punish her, and the girl feels relieved. He still says that Ming doesn't need to keep bowing to worship him, and that she can treat him normally like they were good friends. What do you mean, master? That won't be necessary anymore? No, I also won't punish you anymore for having lied. So he walks away, showing them that he has become a very merciful man, and now he's going to teach them a lot about cultivation, since in the book the villain only thought about his own power and didn't teach his students properly. The second disciple, Ming, starts to fall in love with the young master, and Ling asks if she's having romantic feelings for him. The girl keeps saying no. That place was called Peacer Bai, and it was an exclusive peak of Master Shen's clan. On the other peaks there were several other clans, and they even fought each other. However, some clans were also allies, and used to have many meetings together. Our hero knew that in those mountains there were several precious stones, and that the protagonist of the book would use them to defeat the final villain. That's why our protagonist needed to prepare. He notices some birds eating some plants from his garden and starts scaring them away. He even uses his cultivation power, which was called Transcendent Jade Blade, an extremely overpowered ability the villain had. And he uses it just to hunt those birds. He was a bit nervous as he didn't remember certain parts of the story, and ends up summoning his disciples to climb to the top of the hill. They take a long time, and when they arrive there out of breath. Stand up, my dear disciple. This was a new apprentice who had already been there with them for 2 years. but she couldn't use any cultivation magic. She quickly stands up and shows great Hyuka respect to her master. The shamelessness of our hero already has his cheeks blushing, because this was Ra, his disciple number 0, since she couldn't use cultivation even having powerful fire and wood elements. Well, originally in the story I wrote her to be a concubine, but I can't let her have just that purpose. I need to treat her well and teach her about cultivation. He starts thinking nonsense, but soon embraces this noble thought. Then, he asks who let those birds loose because they came to steal his medicinal herbs. All of them get nervous and don't know what to answer. He was really angry and starts asking seriously who is responsible. Well, I need to be kind to them, so I'll try to remember who did this in the book. At that moment, he remembers it was his eldest disciple, Dong, and he gets all smitten with her since she was the prettiest and had just been punished. That's why the other girls were worried about the elder sister. It's true, I just punished her, and because of that she let the birds loose. Master, please don't punish us, and also forgive the elder disciple. It wasn't her fault, I should be punished. He tells them to shut up, because they were making too much noise, and asks if she's trying to say the master doesn't know what to do. The girl apologizes again and says she would never dare to give orders to the master. Since he doesn't want to be scary, he just gives an order for them to get out of his way, and the girls roll away in fear. Well, I remember that in the book, Paisir Bai was divided into 3 areas. The first area is where the outer disciples and the clan's servants stay. The second area is where the best disciples stay. And the third area is naturally my residence, the residence of Master Shen. That's exactly how our hero's clan worked. And in the second area, there was also the collection matrix. That was where the disciple Dong was recovering. The shamelessness of our hero decides to go there and ends up opening the door, finding her bathing. That was a vision of the gods. He had never seen something so beautiful like that. She apologizes, saying she didn't know the master was coming, and he quickly closes the door, trying to play it off. This book is a tale of the gods. I can't believe I was lucky enough to see something so beautiful like that. The guy was no good, but he knew those wounds had been caused by himself, since that villain was a scoundrel. He was very wicked. He wished to restore the health of his first disciple, Dong, since he was the one who caused those injuries as punishment. I'll tell you right now that she doesn't mind taking a few punishments. She's kind of like Darkness from Konosuba. If you got the reference, you got the joke. Don't worry, Dong, this won't happen again. You can rest assured. In fact, he really wanted that situation to happen again, to walk in and find her in that embarrassing position. She's been quiet for a while. Could it be that the master left? Why did he leave so quickly like that? Doesn't he have any interest in me? At that moment, Shen opens the door again and the girl gets embarrassed. He tells her to open her mouth because he's going to give her some medicine, and thus he ends up placing the medicinal pill in her mouth so she could recover. He says that this is a 4th grade elixir, and that if she cultivates inside the bathtub, she'll be able to absorb it faster, and also advance her cultivation. That pill cost a lot of gold coins, but he said it would be worth it. During the night, the 2 nosy sisters decide to spy on their older sister to see if she was okay. Younger sister, be quiet. If we get caught, we'll end up being punished by the master. Relax. The master cultivates during the night, so he won't notice we came in here. In the second area's house, it's always good to be careful. We managed to get the excellent healing pills, and we must deliver them safely to our older sister. Okay, I know. Older sister, open the door. We're here with medicine. They don't get a response, so they start thinking the worst has happened and that Sister Dong was no longer alive. So Ling headbutts the door to try to open it and ends up entering the recovery dormitory. They see the older sister cultivating and ascending to the realm of immortals. All the wounds on her back had disappeared, and Disciple Ling starts to wish to also advance her own cult. However, they hear the master's voice behind them, and he asks what they're doing there at that hour of the night. Well, master, we're here to see if Sister Dong is okay. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what we came to do, so good night, master. We're leaving now. They were holding a healing elixir, and our hero found out that they had stolen it. But since he was trying to pass a kind and merciful image, he doesn't get very angry, and tells them they did a good job being concerned about their older sister. Dong! The master has become very kind, hasn't he? Is he really the same master we know? Well, I don't know. He's really quite different. She says that with blushing cheeks, and it even seemed like she was extremely in love with the young master. At first, I just wanted to change the direction of the plot of my book, but now I kind of like my disciples. It seems like I need to become a good master for them. There was our hero meditating on top of Paisir Bai. According to my book, Master Shin has a dual spiritual root identity of wood and water. These elements are quite powerful, but the protagonist of this book is much more powerful than the villain, so that's why I need to train a lot. he starts doing some tests to see his abilities and ends up cutting a bench using his water cultivation. This power was amazing, but he knew that it wouldn't be enough to defeat the protagonist of the book. After training for a short period of time, he managed to reach the nascent soul stage. And he wonders if the villain had this much potential, and if he could become even more powerful. You'll see the surprise we'll get when the protagonist of this book shows up. I wasn't expecting this plot twist, I swear. Our hero starts celebrating since he became stronger, and even said that God is helping him. To be honest, he was a bit scared of getting beaten up by the protagonist. Now that he was more powerful, he even starts laughing out loud with joy, and the sound of our hero's evil laugh echoes throughout the mountain. On the second day after he had ended up in this new world, Disciple Ling wakes up and says good morning to the two older sisters. They ask why Ling has that tired face, and she says she heard the master's evil laugh coming from the top of the mountain, and because of that she got really scared and couldn't sleep. Alright, but clean yourself up quickly, because the master called us to go to the White Jade Nursery at the top of the mountain. They hear him calling for the second time, so they run out to go there. He was sleepy, since he had been sitting there waiting for a long time. Master, my 3 younger sisters have arrived. This was Dong, the oldest among the disciples and also the clan's senior disciple. This character here was really beautiful, and I bet you'll fall in love with her. So keep watching to find out why. The girls were tired, and the shamelessness of our hero tries to act casual so it wouldn't look like he was excited to have several girls around him. I want you to come to this mountain every morning, understand? Yes, master. I think it's better if I just keep doing clan duties, because if I stay here with them, I'll interrupt my sister's cultivation. She says this because she can't perform cultivation, so our hero asks Cheyenne how old she is. Cheyenne says she is 14 years old, and our hero can't stop staring at the beautiful pair on that girl. He says she doesn't look that age. Supposedly, you should have started training between the ages of 9 and 12, and at 14 years old, your meridians become more rigid, and it will be very difficult to evolve. The girl even starts to cry, but he puts his hand on Cheyenne's head and says she shouldn't give up, and that she should train and believe in herself. The girl breaks down, as she suffered a lot of prejudice for not being able to cultivate properly. Only Master Shen gave her a chance and took her into his clan. The villain had done this with other intentions, but the poor girl didn't know that. Now that our hero is controlling Master Shen's body, he was going to take good care of the poor girl. It's okay, young one, don't cry. We're going to help you evolve, you can be sure of that. My God, this really is our master. Since when is he such a kind person? Dong says that the master used to be very kind, and that now he just went back to how he used to be. Later, Ling complains that she's tired of having to wake up so early, climb the mountain, and then go back down. She even says that her feet hurt a lot, because she wasn't used to going up there. Ming throws a cold bucket of water and says the youngest sister is too whiny. The white-haired one, Xian, says she's going down the mountain to get some vegetables, and the youngest one comes running after, hugs her, and asks if the master isn't giving her too much work. She says no, and reveals that the master has been spending a lot of time trying to train her. And because of that, in recent days she managed to improve her cultivation, and is trying really hard not to disappoint the master. Ling asks the redhead Ming if the master really went back to being a kind person like he was in the past. I don't know, but all of us were rejected by the other clans. Master Shen was the only one who accepted us, even though we were really weak. Well, actually, you were rejected for being a slowpoke, said Ming, teasing her little sister. Meanwhile, the youngest argues back, saying she's very smart. However, one thing is certain. The master had accepted all these disciples who didn't have great abilities, and even accepted a disciple who had no cultivation at all. Soon after, the white-haired girl ends up meeting disciples from another clan. She even asks if they have an amulet that gives permission to climb the mountain of her clan. The guys start teasing and say they just came to get some birds that flew to this mountain, since these birds are worth a lot of money because they grant some medicines. What the guy was actually hunting was exactly those birds our hero had been complaining about for being loose. The girl says she didn't see any of those birds, trying to cover it up, even though earlier they had cooked one of those birds for lunch, since they didn't know they were worth so much money. She tries really hard to trick them, but the boys realize she was lying and get angry. Suddenly they try to attack poor Xian, thinking she had no cultivation. Xian managed to block the attack from that shameless guy and uses her power. She asks why they came to pick a fight on Mount Herbie. The guy gets furious, as he didn't expect her to be able to use magic. He tries to go after her to finish the girl, but Master Shen had arrived. He uses the Jade Hand, throwing that bully far away. He said the girl did a great job and thanks her. Our hero was really ticked off, and the guys who were invading the clan apologized, saying they would never do it again. You are junior disciples, so I won't punish you, just leave. And if your master has anything to complain about, let him come to me. He holds Xian's face and asks if the girl is hurt. She says no. She explains that they came there looking for those birds they had eaten for lunch, and that they didn't know those animals were worth that much. Even our hero, upon hearing that, starts to lament, saying they could have become millionaires. They had cooked a male bird for lunch, and that's why he was going to have the others lay eggs, multiply, and sell those birds for a good amount of gold. Soon after, he shows that he's quite concerned about his eldest apprentice. She tells him not to worry because that medicinal pill was very useful, and she no longer has any injuries. He says that now that she is advanced in cultivation, she can learn new spells and start practicing new techniques. He gives her a book so she can study. The master is being really nice to me. But why is he taking so long to punish me? Why isn't he punishing me anymore? I told you guys she's just like Darkness from Konosuba. The Immortal Seedling Conference was about to take place, which was a selection conference where several clans could choose some new apprentices. The clan leaders were gathering to choose the new students, and the girls say that their master has an inappropriate posture, thinking he's pretty cool. A girl from another clan keeps saying that our hero is very interesting, and the two of them stay there watching Master Shen for a few minutes. The pink-haired girl starts laughing and asks if her sister was in love. She answers no because that master had a somewhat dark history, and she was even afraid of him. At that moment, our hero hears them talking about him and ends up looking at the woman. The woman is quite shameless and tries to seduce the young master. The other clan leaders fall in love with that woman, and our hero's nose even starts to drip. His apprentice says that woman is really shameless. Master! Master! That girl, did you see her? Did you see? She's really amazing. Yeah, she had those things. Huge, you know? They were huge. The girl keeps saying that, and the other masters of the clan are outraged, saying that our hero was very lucky to have so many beautiful disciples. Well, according to my book, this is the moment when the Gonus protagonist of the story appears. I can't let him become a disciple of other masters because then he'll defeat me more easily. So I need to control him. We see that the boy there really was skilled, and some masters even get interested in him. The master of the gathering orders the new disciples to head to the center of the convention, as they had analyzed all their abilities throughout the day. The boys go there and start analyzing each concept of Cultivation Foundation. Each one steps onto the platform and releases their element, so they can see which elements each one had. The fewer elements, the better it was, because it showed that the person's power was more focused and strong. If the student had too many elements, it meant they weren't good at anything. Don keeps feeding our hero, and asks if he's already chosen who his new disciple will be. Ling starts mocking, saying that everyone is talking about them being the worst clan, and that no one would want to join their group. Even so, one of the students had pure wood spiritual cultivation. Our hero feels tempted to choose this disciple because he was very powerful, and all the other masters were saying they wanted this boy. Now it was our hero's turn to choose, and he said he would leave the skilled boy for another master who needed him more. He decides to give this boy to Master Byran. She was the master of Mount Linzu, which was on the other side of the valley. She says that Master Shin's strength is much greater than hers, and that he would be a more appropriate master for this boy, since he had such pure cultivation. The masters there keep saying that it's true, and that Shen should take care of that disciple, because the master of Mount Linzu wasn't very good. Our hero then calls out those shameless old men, saying that she was indeed very good, and that she would be a master just as qualified as he was. That makes this beautiful woman fall in love with our hero, and she says that Master Shen is becoming a very kind man. According to the story, that boy would be a very important character. So our hero gives a cookie to this apprentice, so he'll like him in the future. The boy's master says he can eat that cookie, and our protagonist even tells him not to team up with Jia, who's the gunner's protagonist, and also not to try to kill him in the future. He knew that this character would join forces with the hero of the story and defeat the villain. The boy's master keeps thanking our protagonist for helping her get a great disciple. He says he didn't do anything special, he was just helping a great friend get her new apprentice. Soon the Gonus protagonist of the book would appear, so he needed to make sure that boy would be his student. Now it would be the final test. They ask the little boy to show his cultivation elements. He greets the immortal masters and begins to channel his cultivation. Everyone there gets curious, and the young master comments that he wants to see who will compete with him for this young student. The fire element appears, and the masters start saying that's a great sign. But then the wood element appears. Master Bai says that's not good news. Right after, a third element appears, stone. The masters start to lose interest in the boy. Poor Zhao is already starting to panic, because no master would want a disciple with so many elements like that. That symbolized that he wasn't good at anything. To make it worse, other elements appear too, like water and light. All the masters start mocking the boy and even say that he's going to be useless, that he won't be good for anything. Our hero didn't expect this to happen, as it was very different from what his book said. It was basically a butterfly effect. All the actions he was taking were changing the story. The boy even starts crying, imagining that no master will accept him. However, Master Shen appears in front of him and tells the boy not to be sad, because he already had a new master. Are you willing to become my disciple? Yes, I'm willing. I'll become your student. Great. You just need to believe in yourself, then sooner or later the world will crawl at your feet. Yes, I'll remember that. Master, please accept me as your disciple. Yes, from now on I am your master, so come with me. The boy runs off desperately because he thought no one would accept him. And our hero gets excited because he's changing the course of the story and has a good chance of not dying and managing to survive in this wonderful martial arts world. It was the perfect world everyone would love to live in. The villain of the story now was the master of this gunner's protagonist, who would defeat him in the end. When they arrive at the peak of the mountain, they start talking with the new disciple. The little boy says he won't disappoint his master. Dong says the master is really changing because he's treating everyone well and not acting arrogantly. Our hero wanted to give expensive pills to his new disciple. The disciple asks why he wanted to spend so much money on a student who had just arrived. He says that for his disciples to evolve, he wanted to give his best, even if it cost expensive resources. Dong says she was disrespectful for questioning the master and because of that should be punished. He replies that he won't punish her for something so simple. But the girl insists, saying she should receive some kind of punishment. Our hero then realizes what's happening because he remembers that this character liked that kind of thing. The little boy, Xiao, was watching all that and had a look like he was enjoying the scene. Xiao, do you want to say something? You can speak. Well, master, but actually I'm a girl, not a boy. That caught our hero by surprise. He doesn't understand anything because the Gona's protagonist from his book really was a man. The little girl had already been at Temple H for a few days, and our hero had been treating her as his favorite student. Now she would no longer be called Zhao, but Qin. This was disciple Qin. The little girl was very clever, and not at all innocent as she seemed. She even kept teasing our hero. Qin had dressed as a boy to pass the test, and be chosen by the clans. He didn't quite understand why this was happening with his story. He didn't know why the hell the Gunna's protagonist from his book had turned into a woman. That meant he really was changing the course of the story a lot. So he opens the book and starts teaching her some cultivation tales. He tells her to remember those teachings well, because they were very important. The white-haired one had prepared lunch, and the older sister was all happy. She said the master would be very happy with the food, and that she was excited to see his reaction. You already imagined what she did, right? So keep watching. She was very much in love. The white-haired one comments that the older sister is acting very strange today. The other students arrived and said they should start lunch, since Master Shen was going to be a bit late because he was with Disciple Qin. Ming realizes they roasted that bird that was worth millions, and she already starts getting mad, asking who was the crazy one that did that. You cooked that bird for lunch? At that moment, Master Shen arrives and the little redhead already gets all desperate. He was with his new disciple Qin, and said he was very hungry, that he couldn't wait to have lunch. He goes to the table all hungry, saying the dish looked delicious, that it was even making his mouth water. However, when Shen looks at the table and realizes that that extremely rare bird was cooked, he gets very angry. Ming tells the newbie to stay quiet and try to act normal, but our hero starts asking who was the one who did that. The disciples kneel, asking for forgiveness except for Ling, who stays standing, not bowing. He knew he couldn't get too mad, because now he wanted to stop being the villain and become the hero. He keeps insisting that they tell the truth and reveal who roasted that bird. Dong immediately says it was her and that because of that she should be punished. She even starts begging for him to punish her, saying she was careless and made a very serious mistake. At that moment, he remembers that she likes that kind of thing, and that's why he keeps refusing to give a punishment. Qin asks if it wouldn't be appropriate to apply a light punishment on Dong so she doesn't make more mistakes. Our hero already starts imagining Dong as a little child getting spanked by her parents, and he even says that idea out loud. Dong turns all red, but deep down she was loving the idea. The master then sits on a chair and asks Dong to go over there, because he was going to punish her to show the other disciples that they should pay more attention. However, she had really liked that, and ends up going to our hero's lap of asking him to give a proper punishment. The shameless protagonist gets all excited, but he knows he needs to do this in the right way to properly teach his disciples. So he gives a few spanks as a lesson for the girls, but it seems like that wasn't a punishment at all, since Dong was enjoying it a lot. The other disciples even feel embarrassed because of the screams. Our hero says that's enough, even though the girl keeps insisting that she should be punished for a longer time. He even mentions that he'd lost his appetite, and since he was at a very high cultivation stage, he wouldn't need to eat for several days. He ends up leaving. Older sister, are you okay? I'm fine. The young master is not a bad man. Then she keeps asking Sister Ming to get her new clothes because she had soiled her robe, if you know what I mean. The little redhead runs off to get the clothes, and the other two, being younger, don't understand anything. They keep asking what the hell was going on. And there was Dong, all in love with our hero, saying that he really was amazing. The little younger sister started to understand, since she was very clever. Later he was bathing in his room and heard someone's voice calling. It was Disciple Dong who came there to wash her master's back. He insists that it's not necessary, but she insists the opposite, saying that it is indeed necessary. She goes to wash the young master's back. At that moment, little Kin calls the master from outside the room, and he needs to hide Dong in the wardrobe. Right after that, he used cultivation to dry the whole room, leaving no traces. Little Kin enters, and he was already putting away the bathtub. She gets curious, since she had heard the sound of Sister Dong, and starts making small talk about something irrelevant. She even keeps glancing at the wardrobe because she imagined that the older sister was there. Dong was really hidden in the wardrobe and was already very hot, since it was very stuffy in there. The clever Kin decides to make tea to give to our hero. Meanwhile, the older sister stays there all in love, smelling the master's clothes and saying he was very fragrant. Our hero keeps whispering, asking her to make less noise inside the wardrobe. A few moments later, the little girl, Disciple Kin, shows up with the tea to give to her master. However, she ends up tripping and spilling the tea in the air. The young master was very skilled, and managed to catch everything without letting anything hit the floor. He also catches the little girl. He knew that Kin only wanted to spill the tea on his clothes, so he would have to go to the wardrobe to change, and thus reveal someone was in there. But this girl was very clever, and pretends she really tripped. She keeps acting, saying that our hero is very kind. Later, when Kin finally leaves, our hero decides to check how Disciple Dong was doing. She was very exhausted, as she had spent 2 hours stuck inside that wardrobe. Master Shen tells her to come out of there. Dong keeps saying that now she needs a new punishment, since she caused so much trouble for her master. Shen tells her to change clothes and leave right away, because he didn't want to give a bad impression to the other junior disciples, so Dong starts changing, and he reveals that he's going to leave for some time to gather a few items. That would happen early tomorrow because soon the annual selection would take place, and they would need to be very strong and prepared. That's why he was going after new items. That way he leaves early the next day, using his cultivation to appear younger. He looked like a teenager and was going to travel around the area in search of sacred items. Near where our hero was, another clan was traveling. They had some reasonably strong warriors, but they weren't exceptional cultivators. They then smell a very delicious barbecue aroma, and that was our hero near the road, preparing some skewers. Everyone runs over there and asks how much that lamb meat costs. Someone from the carriage hands over a golden leaf so that a clan Gurunyan servant could buy that barbecue from our hero. They hadn't eaten for some time, and the guy asks how much the boy would sell it for. He says he is the leader of the guard from Mulan Castle. Our hero gets interested, observing them. The chief of the guard offers a golden leaf in exchange for the barbecue. Shen says that is too much food for him, and that therefore the brothers from the clan could help themselves. The guard's quite honorable, and thanks our hero. Finally, the clan leaders who were in the carriage go to the young master to thank him. Who are these two beauties? Could they be sisters or a mother and daughter? It's really hard to know. He blushes and asks who they are. A younger girl in the back starts laughing, and the other woman says the skewers were delicious and that her name is Sasha. She also mentions they came from Mulan Castle, and that the other girl was her daughter, Ying. She then asks the name of our hero. He says that the clan that cultivates the artist's path does not reveal their true name, so they could call him Gin. The girl apologizes, saying she was very rude, because she knows that cultivators don't reveal their real names to strangers. She seems to be interested in our hero, and keeps asking where he was going. The young master says he's in a hurry and will therefore continue on his way. The little girl in the back keeps laughing at her mother, since it seemed like she had been rejected by that boy. He then reveals that he was going to Anli Mountain and says he would be very grateful if she was also going there and could give him a ride. Blushing, the girl keeps staring at our hero, and it seemed like they were really falling in love with him. Thus he joins this clan's group. At night they make camp, and then Ying asks her mother why she let an unknown cultivator travel with them. She says she really can't explain it properly, but she felt he was a good person. Actually, the woman was interested in the young master, because he was very handsome. Well, my daughter. Besides that, he said he was going to Anli Mountain, which is also known as the Demonic Mountain. They say there are many demons in that place, and no one who went there ever came back alive. so surely he must have many abilities. The girl then asks her mother if she could marry that young cultivator. If she managed to do that, she wouldn't have to marry the eldest son of the Yoshua clan. Madame Sasha's clan wasn't very powerful, and they needed to unite forces with stronger clans for protection. That's why they were making this trip. So she keeps telling her daughter that she could marry that young cultivator, since he was very handsome and seemed to have a pure heart. Our hero even sneezes, since the two were talking about him. The guard master goes to the young master and says the night is getting colder, and that he should go to a tent to warm up. Our hero says he'll stay there, as he was warming himself by the fire and besides didn't need to sleep. They then start talking about Muling Castle, and the guard says that the former leader ended up dying. They lost full protection, and the one who became the leader was Madame Sasha, whom the former master was going to marry, but he ended up dying before even meeting his future wife. She was a very young lady and ended up adopting that little girl. She wasn't the girl's real mother. Now the little girl would marry someone from the Yoshua clan. Our hero remembers the name of that clan and even has some wrong thoughts, because it was the clan of that very beautiful girl who had done something unexpected in that meeting to try to get his attention. The man also says he has served this clan for many years and owes his life to them. At that moment, the young master tells the guard chief to wake all the warriors because it was an intruder in the camp. Since our hero is very powerful, he could sense the presence of cultivators hundreds of meters away. He reveals that the enemies are nearby. All the warriors come out of their tents to begin defending the camp. A raider clan appears, and Madame Sasha comes out of the tent to protect her disciples. She even tells the young cultivator to stay behind her because she didn't want to put him in danger in a battle that wasn't his. He acknowledges that this woman, Sasha, is truly worthy and honorable, and even says she would make a good wife. He also notices that the woman's daughter was behind him. Even though she was scared, she didn't retreat. Since fate has brought us together, I will protect you. Thus the battle begins, and the warriors give their all to protect the clan. Our hero is with the girl, and an enemy ends up throwing a fire spear at them. The old man, who is part of the royal guard, uses a spell to cut that spear. The madame keeps thanking him, saying he is very powerful. However, right after that, several arrows are shot at them from above. The old man uses a barrier to protect the carriage and everyone else in the camp. After that, he uses a spell with his sword to defeat the archers. Up above, there was a cultivator from the foundation building realm. The old man had already noticed he was up there and that those guys wanted to take the madam along with her daughter. Those guys wanted to kidnap the leaders of that clan. Another evil cultivator comes out of the forest and says that now that they found out the madam is traveling with some cultivators, the battle will be more interesting. However, our elder was much more powerful. As soon as they see the young master, they already realize his cultivation is very high and end up surrendering. The madame thanks him, saying the boy saved everyone's lives, even without directly fighting them. But he gets all embarrassed, saying he didn't do anything special, just returned the favor. They thank him, calling him young master, and it's clear that these two were very interested in our hero. Those scoundrel cultivators kneel down apologizing and reveal that it was the master of their clan who ordered them to go there and try to kidnap the madame along with her daughter. One of the guys starts arguing, saying his partner was a traitor for revealing that information. So they start fighting each other. One of them even tries to strike his companion, but our hero intercepts the attack, splitting the blade in half and also hitting the bully. Who said you could move? Our protagonist was really badass. The other cultivator keeps apologizing, and couldn't understand how such a young boy could have such enormous power. Our protagonist was using a different technique because if he used his jade sword, everyone would know he was Master Shen, since that technique was very famous. That's why he was using a different sword, which wasn't that powerful. The fake guy keeps apologizing, and begs not to be eliminated. No problem. You have a total of 20 breaths. Whoever gives me the Lotus Seed Spiritual Collection first will survive. With that, the two guys start fighting each other. The one with gray hair is faster and lands arrows in the chest of his former companion, right after he delivers the Lotus Seed. However, the other one hadn't been killed and ends up striking him from behind. Alright, so you were the one who won. That said, I will not eliminate you. After saying those words, Madame Sasha's bodyguard ends up eliminating the guy in a very unexpected way. The young master says he didn't break the promise. The madame keeps apologizing, saying her servant crossed the line and acted against her will. Don't worry, that doesn't matter. I didn't break any promise since I wasn't the one who killed him. And that golden treasure belonged to that cultivator who was at the foundation building stage and was called the Earth League. This item had a very high cultivation level. However, the young master says he doesn't need such an item and gives it back to that elder. He should train a lot to master the characteristics of that item because otherwise it could put his own life in danger. How nice it is to be the good guy in the story. I was even worried I'd have to become the villain, but being the protagonist is much better. The guy wanted to seem like a movie hero, and even feels happy knowing the girls are falling in love with him. That girl keeps asking the young master to wait. Young master, you still intend to go to that mountain, right? Don't you want to get in our carriage and travel with us? Who would be the idiot to refuse an invitation like that? Of course, our hero accepts and even has that shameless look on his face. So they all head to the mountain. The girls get all excited beside our hero, even feeding him by hand. He asks if the girl was being sent to the Joshua clan. Her mother said yes, and that elder Bai said she has good cultivation. That's why she would be a great warrior to form alliances. She, of course, didn't want to be sent to that place. What she really wanted was to marry our hero. Mom, I'll be turning 14 soon, and I'm a grown-up girl. Girls that age usually get married. It's true, Sasha. She's not small at all. She's already quite grown up. Our shameless hero keeps saying these things because he was tempted to marry her. So he starts offering the girl to become a disciple of his clan. He had a dual cultivation method, and the girl gets all interested, asking how it worked. He touches Yuting's head, and she feels her body heating up. That was the sensation of dual cultivation. The mother gets rosy cheeks, and her daughter nearly faints to the ground. The dual cultivation was very intense, and the young master had to hold her so she wouldn't get hurt. The nose of the shameless one even starts bleeding, and he says she has an empty spiritual root constitution, which was very rare. The empty spiritual root is capable of turning a cultivator immortal after much hard work. Because he briefly activated this dual cultivation in her, Yuting starts having a fever and feels like several monsters are trying to capture her. After that, she wakes up and asks him if she has the right qualifications to become a disciple of his clan. He starts smiling because besides being beautiful, she was also powerful, much more skilled than the other disciples. Alright, Yuting, you have an unparalleled talent. Would you like to be my new disciple? She gets very happy and already says yes, that she really wants to become the young master's apprentice. Alright, now that you are already my disciple, listen very carefully to what I have to say. First, I will teach you cultivation, but you must train a lot on your own. Second, I won't be by your side all the time, so you need to practice a lot, and I will help you define your own cultivation standards. And third, no matter what problem you face, you can call me at any time and I'll be there to help you. Understood? Yes, master, I understood. I understood everything. He keeps patting the girl's head, saying that having a disciple like her is something lovely, very different from the other disciples he has in his clan. One liked playing pranks, another was clumsy, the oldest enjoyed being punished, and the youngest was a total airhead. In other words, this new disciple, Yuting, was the most promising of them all. He even reveals to the girl's mother that Yuting's constitution was extremely special, and that because of that they should give her special attention. The mother gets scared, saying that this would be too dangerous for her daughter, but our hero assures her that there's no problem. Besides, he'll help her train a lot. That guard's name was Jin Sui, and he goes to our hero to ask for some cultivation tips. He said that the old man was weakening too fast, his health was getting worse, and because of that he should undergo special training to live longer. So the young master offers an energy and vitality pill so he can prolong his life. The old man knew that was real and felt he was getting very weak quickly. Because of that, he starts getting emotional since our hero is offering something of extreme value. He thanks him by prostrating and says he'll do anything our hero asks. Then the only thing our hero asks is that he take care of Madame Sasha and also of Castle Muling for the rest of his life. The girl's mother says her daughter is very lucky to have become a disciple of the young master, and that now they wouldn't need to be sent to that clan anymore, nor be separated from each other. From now on, you must listen to the young master. She keeps telling her mother that the clan's masters don't follow worldly standards, and that she has hopes of being able to marry him. The mother is shocked, asking why the girl was thinking about those things. At that moment, they realize the young master was right behind, listening to everything. They don't know where to hide their faces from embarrassment, and even say that the young master is very fast and shows up at the most unexpected times. Because I feel like I'm building a harem instead of taking in disciples. That's exactly what this guy was doing, folks. He was forming a group made entirely of girls. Even when he didn't want to, he ended up recruiting girls into his clan. He says that the protector will guard Castle Muling, and that, because of that, they don't need to feel threatened. The woman is surprised, because the young master already seemed to have thought of everything. He even says there's no need for them to go to that other clan anymore, and that he'll make a trip to the castle in the future, to see how they're doing. The little girl goes to say goodbye to the young master, and he says he'll reveal his true appearance to them, since that was just a disguise. So, in front of the mother and daughter, he performs his transformation into his original form and shows his true appearance. They become even more infatuated, since he seemed to be even more powerful, and so, he continues his journey flying to the mountain because he couldn't waste any more time and needed to quickly acquire those items to help his disciples. This demonic mountain was scary, and there was no habitation within a 100-kilometer radius. In the mountains there were snakes and venomous animals, and he was in search of a tree that had an elemental fruit. He had found a sacred tree with this fruit, which had exactly 5 elemental fruits. However, there was a toad guarding the tree. According to our hero's power, he could simply go there and defeat this toad with ease. However, he didn't want to look like a villain, so he decided to lie down and wait for the toad to leave. But several days passed, and the toad still didn't leave. The toad even ate the insects that passed nearby, but he didn't leave the tree for even a minute. He stayed there the whole time, protecting it. With that, our hero gets furious and feels tempted to use brute force to get the toad out of there. But he starts thinking of another strategy. He decides to use an illusion and create a female toad to enchant the guardian toad and lure him away. While the toad leaves, he decides to run to the tree to get the fruits. Only the toad returns to the tree because it sensed something was wrong. It spits a jet of poison at our hero, but he summons his sword to defend himself. The battle against the toad starts to get intense. Our hero strikes the poor creature with a non-lethal blow. The toad stays on top of a mountain, feeling that this cultivator was very powerful. However, at that moment, a lotus flower appears in flames. That would be a golden core spell. The toad releases a poisonous blast and clashes with the lotus flower, causing an explosion. He doesn't understand where this power came from, and before he realizes, a woman appears there. That was Yun, the young master's former girlfriend. She was part of the Toon clan and was also the daughter of the leader. The toad said that humans of this era weren't that powerful, and launches water blades at the woman. She, who had fire cultivation, lets out a blazing phoenix scream, which was a very powerful spell. Thus she manages to block the water blades and also hurl them back at the toad. Why am I using the fire phoenix to deal with you when I could simply fight with my own hands? She implies that she is very powerful and wouldn't even need to use spells. But our hero gives a nervous laugh. He knows how his ex-girlfriend likes to bluff. She charges at the monster, doing aerial maneuvers. However, the toad wasn't weak and she has to dodge at the last second. My god, I can't believe I'm watching this battle. This looks like a child's fight. The creature uses poisonous gas and she gets surrounded by a cloud with nowhere to escape. Thus she begins to faint and lose her strength. When she was about to fall into the lake, the monster grabs her with its tongue and says it's going to devour her, since creatures like that also feed on cultivators. However, at the last moment, our hero unleashes a spell with his turquoise sword, blasting the toad far away. The poor beast even starts saying that it fell into a trap, but that it won't let those humans steal its fruits. They release another power at our hero, but he charges using the progressive wave. The young master was far more powerful than the toad. The girl is enchanted to know that someone that strong exists. He gets all smug, saying that there is no enemies for him, and the girl becomes even more enchanted. He prepares the new strike with the progressive wave, and she watches him from behind, seeing that the boy is truly amazing. Then he slices half of that mountain just to frighten the toad. How is this possible? I can't believe someone this strong exists. I don't intend to defeat you, so don't get in my way. The toad thanks the young master for sparing its life, and he says it would have been easier to have fought the toad earlier and taken the fruit. He wouldn't have needed to stay there waiting for a week. The girl asks for one of the 5 elemental fruits and says just tell her the price. He knew how she was, and that when she wanted something she wouldn't give up no matter what. She wasn't recognizing her ex-boyfriend in Master Shen, because he was in this new appearance. But when she looked at his face, she seemed to remember Master Shen and even got embarrassed. She proposes to trade the fruits for 5 5th-grade elixirs. And the toad, deep down, said that if she was offering something like that, she might as well offer it to him and he would go there and trade the fruits just like that. But our hero remembers that she was very naive and didn't know the real value of things. That's why she kept proposing unfair trades. He looks at the girl and says that she hasn't changed at all. She starts pulling out some items from the sleeve of her clothes and proposes a trade with a spiritual stone from the infernal mountain. Well, this one I can't give you. So how about this one? The hidden jade of the cloud. The toad starts whispering to our hero, proposing the idea of joining forces to defeat this girl and steal the items. Hold on, did I give you permission to say anything? The toad gets terrified and turns to the girl, telling her not to go around showing her items to everyone, because that would be very dangerous and she could get robbed. She reveals that she ended up running away from home, and our hero doesn't know what else to say to this girl. Since she's very naive, he uses his power and harvests the 5 fruits from that tree, deciding to give one to her. She's in shock and asks if he's really going to give her a fire elemental fruit. Yes, I'm going to give you a fruit, but remember not to go revealing your treasures to people. You might end up running into someone with bad intentions. Upon hearing our hero's voice, she remembers her old boyfriend again. They did look quite a bit alike, but Master Shan was very mean and didn't resemble this young man who was helping her at all. Listen, cultivator friend, I can't accept this for free. So, I ask you to please tell me the price of this fruit. He then decides he'll trade it for a transformation elixir and a Ulu gold ingot. She's delighted, because that Ulu gold ingot could only be used by skilled cultivators, so she already imagines that this young master is very strong. He gets embarrassed and says he's not that powerful. You had a transformation pill with her, but she hadn't brought the gold ingot along. So, she decides to give our hero a jade channeling sword. This jade sword would also serve as a form of communication, and he could talk to her from any distance. Besides that, it would also serve as a teleport so she could send the gold ingot once she got to her clan. She said she was doing this to repay the generosity he showed by saving her life. So he asks her what her name is, and ends up revealing that his name is Hein. The girl leaves and tells Heine not to forget about her and to stay in touch. The guy was quite the liar, wasn't he, folks? The toad was trying to escape, and our hero reveals he's going to give him the transformation pill. The toad asks if, by any chance, our hero is trying to turn him into a pet. Oh, so you don't want this? You're refusing my generosity, is that it? Nothing threatening in our hero's words, and the toad ends up having to accept it against his will. He gives the pill and says he'll protect the toad, since the pill would take time to take effect. When the cultivation transformation began, several creatures would try to attack the poor toad. And that's exactly what happened. The monsters appeared to try to devour the toad. Our hero managed to defeat all the monsters and tells him not to worry because he'll die, I'll protect him. He releases all his spiritual energy to drive the monsters away, and the toad begins his cultivation transformation. Our hero keeps dealing with the magical beasts that try to attack the poor toad. There were several monsters showing up, and our hero bravely fights them all, using his manifestation with great courage. Then he ends up finding the skin of a snake, and says that would be great for making tights for his disciples. He even imagines one of them wearing it and says it would look really good. Such a shameless hero we have, huh? Thus, the toad had completed its cultivation transformation and thanks his new master for having helped him evolve. Our hero then says he'll choose a name for him and asks if he's really male. The toad was actually female and says she's a toadess. Not even now can our hero summon a male for his clan. Our hero asks, then why were you fooled by a female toad illusion? The toadess is shocked to learn that it was an illusion and says she's sad for having been deceived in her first love. Our hero then puts his hand on his head and starts lamenting, saying he'll find a new companion for the toadess. Finally, he ends up naming her Black, since her cultivation was dark. The scene changes and we go to Muling Castle, where the madam was talking with several elders of the clan. They were warning her that the Muling mansion would be in danger, and for that reason she would need to marry her daughter to the royal family of the kingdom of Jade, or maybe she herself would need to get married. However, the madam wasn't very willing. The old men were already starting to get irritated. They wanted, at all costs, to marry the madam or Yuting, who is her daughter, with the prince's sons. However, she said she won't let her daughter marry those guys they don't even know. Quite angry, she slams her hand on the table and says she won't accept anything they try to impose. She knows very well that these guys are only interested in the moment. Someone shows up there stomping loudly on the ground. That was one of the princes from the kingdom of Jade, and he keeps saying that the madam has a very beautiful body and that she's also very hot-tempered. Just by looking at this guy's face, you can already tell he's trouble. He keeps provoking, saying that now that she's a widow, she deserves a very powerful husband. The guy even says the madam shouldn't be calling Yuting her daughter, since they were not blood-related and were more like sisters. He even proposes a marriage with both of them. Guys, you can already see this guy is no good. She apologizes to his majesty since he was the sixth prince, and says she refuses. She calls Elder Bai to protect her and says they are leaving. That guy was really pissed off, guys. Remember that the protagonist gave him a power? The prince's bodyguard says that this old man is only in the middle stage of foundation building, meaning he would be very weak and no threat to the prince. However, the boy gets mad, saying he didn't know that Muling Castle had a cultivator protecting them. At that moment, the boy keeps saying that this Bai is very powerful, and that he's sensing a sinister energy. He even says that not even he could protect the prince if the old man tried to attack. That way, the prince completely changes his attitude, and starts showing a sign of respect to the madam, just to demonstrate power and impose respect. Old Bai already shows his cultivation, making everyone around feel a bit scared. They were proposing this marriage supposedly to protect the Muling mansion, but what they really wanted was money. They even draw their swords, getting ready for battle. The little frog there had seen all this conversation and goes to our hero, Shine, to tell him what he saw. She's the best, right guys? The little frog is actually a female. The little toad tells him that his disciple Yuting is there at Muling Castle, and that it won't be a problem for her to train there alone since that old man will be protecting the castle. Our hero says they've already gotten rid of the royal family from the kingdom of Jod, but there are still several other kingdoms and clans interested in Muling Castle since they have a lot of money. Then our protagonist says that this part of the story is more about dialogues and romance, and that the battles will come later. He says the readers of his book wouldn't be interested in constant battles. I also don't like battles all the time, guys. If you also like romance and cultivation stories, leave a comment telling us what you think. However, our hero knew that the castle of the Kingdom of Jod had 3 very powerful cultivators. They had such overwhelming power that it was unbalanced, so that's why he also needed the support of his ex-partner, his ex-girlfriend, Sasha. The little toad says the cultivation world wasn't that dangerous, but our hero disagrees. He says it's so dangerous that even the little toad is at risk and needs to hide well to avoid ending up as fried chicken. The little toad protests, saying she's not a chicken but a toad. That way our hero disappears, saying he's going to Muling Castle to talk to his disciple Yuting. We see that she was in her room meditating. She was doing that to improve her cultivation power. She started her training a bit late, but even so, she had a lot of talent. She takes a deep breath and begins to channel her energies. That way she starts levitating, showing that she was progressing well in foundation cultivation. She opens her eyes and realizes someone had entered the room. It was our hero, Master Sean, and he was there using his energy manipulation to serve tea. He acknowledges that his new apprentice has been working hard, and that she advanced a lot in such a short time. The girl gets all excited and jumps to hug our hero. I'm sure you'd love to be Master Sean in that moment. She ends up jumping on him, very excited, and our hero, being the shameless guy he is, gets all thrilled. He said it hadn't been that long since he said goodbye to her, and that she shouldn't miss him that much. However, the girl, as you already know, is madly in love with our hero, and keeps saying she was really anxious to see him. Shen says that if she needs anything, she should ask him, and he won't spare any effort to gift her. She asks if it's really anything at all, and at that moment starts thinking about some naughty things. The girl even starts to get a nosebleed. Now, many of you don't know what this nosebleed means, so whoever does, leave it in the comments, because I know there are a lot of people who don't get this joke. Our hero asks if she's okay, but the girl is completely excited. She gives a little excuse, saying she ate a lot, that's why she was feeling unwell, but we all know that's not the reason. He gives an awkward laugh, saying he didn't know girls did that too. At that moment, he shows the little frog and says she's quite powerful. She's in the nascent soul stage, and will leave her with the girl to give her more protection. With teary eyes, the girl asks if Master Sean was saying goodbye to her again, and asks if he doesn't care about her anymore. He says it's not like that at all, and gives her a hug, gently stroking her head. At that moment, the cup falls, making a very loud noise. The one who appears there is the madam holding the cup, and she drops it because she's surprised to see our hero hugging Yuting. She couldn't believe what she was seeing and starts to feel quite jealous. The girl was crying and her madam gets worried seeing that scene. When she looks down, she also notices a red stain. Then she starts thinking nonsense. Guys, you know very well what she's thinking, right? Our hero keeps saying it's not what she thinks and that he can explain. That way, the madame ends up closing the door and runs away from there. Outside, the madam says she couldn't believe what she saw. She comments that Chung hadn't even reached adulthood, and even so, Master Shan was already making a move. She even wonders if she looks too old. That's why Master Shan wasn't interested in her. But to make the lady even more embarrassed, Master Shan had heard her say that, and said she didn't look old, but rather very attractive and beautiful. After all, guys, she must be like 23, 24 years old, since Yuting is only 14. She apologizes for having intruded, and Master Shan keeps saying that nothing serious happened, clearly worried. He explains again, saying that it was all a misunderstanding, and that he has no romantic relationship with Yuting. In a provocative tone, the Madame says that Master Shan doesn't owe her any explanations, since they are not a couple either. Stammering, he says he thought she had gotten everything wrong, and that's why he came running to explain. Even more provocatively, the Madame asks what exactly she would have misunderstood, and asks him what was going on. She throws all her charm at our hero, and he gets a racing heart, not knowing what to say. He even starts imagining himself holding tightly onto the girl's waist, and her asking him to call her by her name, and not Madam. She would even keep teasing him in his thoughts, saying it would be much more attractive to call her by her actual name than by that title of Madam, since she was the leader of Muling Castle. But guys, of course that was nothing more than imagination, since Master Shan was a man of honor, and wouldn't try to take advantage of girls who were interested in him. I bet if it were you, you'd have made a move a long time ago. He then runs off, saying he has important things to do inside the castle, and that he'll talk to her later. Master Shan was completely loyal to his cultivator students and so decides to return to Mount Erbai. On the way, he keeps saying that was really embarrassing and that he ran away like a scared little kitten. At that moment, a magic sword appears in front of him and starts emitting a tone, like a phone ringing. As soon as he answers, there are several messages from Cape Kayenhain, that ex-girlfriend of his. He can't understand why there's a message, a phone notification, in this ancient cultivation world. From now on, he's going to start unlocking the system. And you'll see how the story is going to get interesting. He keeps trying to understand if his ex-girlfriend was trying to have a long-distance relationship with him. We see her on the other side of the kingdom, very happy that he replied to her messages. She still liked him a lot and keeps saying she won't let him hide from her. The girl was a stalker, guys. In a very dramatic way, she lies there on the ground and keeps saying she looked for him for a long time. She says that this time she won't let him escape like he did in the past. She even pouts, saying that the last time they met he left without saying goodbye. Back in Pek Bai, our hero was returning home with the items he had gathered. For those who don't remember, our protagonist went on a trip to look for items and build sacred artifacts for his students. They needed these items to get stronger and take part in the Cultivators Council exam. However, his students, many of them, are quite silly and weren't that committed to the training. They just kept playing around. Luna, the one with white hair, even asked what the junior sister was planning to do with that attack pose. Then, the girl, the most mischievous of them, charges at the third senior sister, saying she's going to finish her. But the older sister grabs her from behind, saying she won't let the girl pull off her tricks. Here we have a bit of fan service, but for obvious reasons, we're going to skip a small part of our story. Our hero arrives at the best possible moment and starts wondering what those clothes flying everywhere are. The main girl of the story, that clever girl, keeps saying to the master that he arrived at the most perfect time possible. She says the girls are taking a hot spring bath. He keeps saying that when the girls are done, he's going to take a bath too, since he's pretty sweaty. But the girl tries to stop the master, telling him not to leave. She had prepared this hot spring in Pek Bai, so he could bathe and relax, since he had been working hard and needed a bit of fun. You guys know very well what she was trying to say here. And feeling embarrassed, our hero even makes that cheeky-looking face. However, he quickly realizes and knows he must act like a respectful master. That's why he punishes his student, since she couldn't disrespect him and say that kind of thing. But, as you can imagine, this kind of punishment is always welcome. Right after, he tells her she shouldn't be using her charm techniques on the master, since he's a cultivation master and must act respectfully. Our hero said that there was a visitor who came by to greet her. The girl in question who had come to visit him was the one with pink hair. She greets Master Shan and says she took the liberty of coming to visit him, asking forgiveness for the inconvenience. He tells her not to worry and invites the girl into the palace so that they can talk. As soon as they go inside, the girl finds it quite strange, because everyone said Master Shan was a terrible man, but she notices he was very kind and not arrogant at all, like everyone used to say. He even treated his disciples well, and looking at him she felt he wasn't as cold as people claimed. She even starts to feel some affection for him, since he was treating both her and his students very well. He says that one of his students had picked several high-quality herbs to be prepared into a tea, and offers it to her. He says that this tea is one of the tastiest she will ever have. She thanks him and says she came today to thank him for what he did at the Immortal Sprouts Conference, for recommending her. He says it was nothing, that he only recommended her because he believed she was the best choice for that student. She explains that her position in the clan wasn't very good, as she didn't have many disciples, but from now on, with the recommendation, she began to gain a little more recognition within the clan. That's why she had brought a gift for him as a way of thanking him. Our hero says he can't accept it, as he knew that it had great value for her, but she gets a bit upset, saying he's rejecting her kindness in offering such an important gift. He gets a bit apprehensive since he had written this character as being kind and polite. However, she was much stronger than he imagined and had a very different determination from what he thought she would have. If he refused, he could end up gaining a new enemy, so he gladly accepts, telling her not to worry and that she could ask for anything she wanted. Every time he says that, the girls make that face, and you already know why, right folks? He asks if she needs help with anything and says she doesn't need to be shy. She could say anything and he would do it. She says she would like to create a treasure for Quine, to show that she really liked her apprentice. That's why she had even gathered some materials for him to make that gift. At that moment, he realizes that the character he had written is quite different now. She's very determined since she risked herself to get those materials just so he could create that magical item. He says he'll make the item and she keeps thanking him, saying she is very grateful to him. She still says that, whatever he needs, he shouldn't hesitate to ask her. Master Shan keeps telling her not to act so formal and even tells her to relax and drink a little. So they start drinking tea and chatting a bit and we're exchanging some thoughts. Since they are around the same age, she imagined that Master Shan would be a pretty childish and arrogant guy. But he was a pretty cool guy besides being kind. He seemed to have a lot of cultivation knowledge. Of course he knew everything, right guys? He was the writer of this story. He kept watching Ban drinking the tea and said she is much more beautiful than he had described in the books. However, he realizes that he is falling in love with the clan master. He couldn't go around showing surprise, he had to stay focused on the Golden Core realm. Otherwise, he would be attacked by the other realms since he'd be a bit, let's say, distracted, if you know what I mean. Ban tells Master Shan that the tea tastes a bit different and is really delicious. At that moment, she feels something different in her body, and it was exactly the effects of that tea. If you enjoyed this work, leave it in the comments. Stay tuned because we always continue the best ones. So that's it for today. See you next time.